Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. This is an experiment. Today at midnight, I posted this video, Rant About Tariffs Rants. Now, what it shows is the Dollar Tree store that's on Fayetteville Street that's been built recently. There's an earlier and still active Dollar Tree store in the plaza adjacent to the big box store. So I was running my mouth. And this morning, what it kind of reminded me of, now I'm going to try to reproduce what was going on. When I was a kid up north, when I was a kid in grade school up north, there were 5 and dime stores. What were 5 and dime stores? A five and dime store, now we're talking about the 1950s, also known as a dime store or a 5 and 10. Actually, in my hometown, one of them was called the 5 and 10. Like that. It was a type of retail store that emerged in the late 19th century, that's like 1890s, and gained popularity in the early to mid-20th century. Mid-20th century would be 1950s. These stores sold a wide variety of inexpensive goods, typically priced at 5 or 10 cents, which later expanded to include higher price points, which was when they started to go out of business. They were known for offering a little of everything, from candy and toys to housewares and notions, and were often a destination for families looking for, well, I would stop in on the way to school or coming back from school if I had a nickel in my pocket, and I might buy something like a yo-yo. All right? Now, in my hometown up north, names of 5 and dime stores in the next city. There was a Newberry. Nostalgic photos of old school 5 and dime stores. In my hometown, there was an FW Woolworth that looked just like that. That's the characteristic sign right there. In my hometown, there was a W.T. Grant store, and it looked pretty much like that. These are 5 and dime stores. Well, Grant distinguished itself as a 25-cent store, implying a classier degree of retail than your average dime store. So on Union Street, in the same block, but at opposite ends, there was an FW Woolworth that was right by where I crossed the street to get to my primary school, grammar school. So I stopped in there more often. But a few hundred yards up the street was a W.T. Grant store. And a few minutes ago, I was wondering if I was remembering correctly about the W.T. part. Where was the FW Woolworth store in, where am I? Asheboro, North Carolina. This is what I'm doing this for. I want to see what answer it gives now. Where was the FW Woolworth store in Asheboro, North Carolina? They did it. Very good. AI Overview. This is a feature of Google search. The FW Woolworth store in Asheboro, North Carolina was located at 134 South Elm Street. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Oh, wait a minute. You grew up north, Steve. How do you know? Those stores disappeared long ago. Let's look at the next sentence. This location is now the site of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. I've been to the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. It's in Greensboro. A long time ago, 20 years ago, when I was doing North Carolina highway historical markers, taking Friday out, Saturday out or Sunday, both, maybe, and traveling around to different counties in North Carolina with a book telling me where these highway historical markers are. The nearest one to here used to be just up at the next light, but the marker's not any there anymore. Don't know what happened to it. Talking about the Cedar Falls Mill. The closest one now is a couple miles in that direction at the Deep River, talking about a Revolutionary War regulator. That's a person. The store was known for its lunch counter, which became a focal point in the 1960s Greensboro sit-ins. Do you notice that the paragraph contradicts itself? The FW Woolworth store in Asheboro was located at 134 South Elm Street. This location is now the site of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. I've been in there. The store was known for its lunch counter. They were refused lunch at the white section. That's what started the demonstrations, which became a focal point of the 1960 Greensboro sit-ins. So they would go in and sit on all the stools and prevent them from doing any business because they wouldn't serve. FW Woolworth Building, U.S. National Park Service. There's a picture, May 9th, 2020. NC markers. Search North Carolina Highway Historical Marker Program. We want to go to Forsyth County, is that right? There'll be a lot of markers. You know, in another video I mentioned the Great Wagon Road. You see the sign there? Wait a minute. If I got the county correct, Guilford County, Pardon me, Forsyth County is to the west of that. Pardon me. See, the NC markers refuse to lie to me. Oh, did I say lie? So I was looking in the wrong county. I want to look in Guilford County. All of my apologies to the people 30 miles north of me. Let's look for the markers in Guilford County. I'm just smiling. There's 100 of them. In colonial times, there used to be fewer, but then it got crowded and they had to divide them up. So let's look at Guilford County and just search on all. Let's see if I have any better luck. Well, we know about the Guilford Courthouse. There was a battle there. They're talking about a lot of friends meeting. See, I told you there's a lot of them. I know there's a marker there. Hang on. Now remember, I'm remembering back 20 years. Oh, well, excuse me. J79, sit-ins. I'm not quite as bad as Biden. I understand that yesterday Biden made a public appearance and he dropped his ice cream. I wouldn't drop my ice cream. J79 sit-ins launched the national drive for integrated lunch counters February 1st, 1960 in Woolworth store 2 blocks south. Elm Street at Friendly Avenue in Greensboro. Now, this one here said specifically 134. Now, you notice that they're showing Asheboro, because that's the context. It's looking up 134 South Elm Street. Yes, there's an Elm Street in Asheboro. There's an Elm Street in Greensboro. There's an Elm Street in my hometown up north. So here's the street view. In Asheboro. Excuse me. So let's do it again. 134 South Elm Street, Greensboro. Let's choose that one. Not Asheboro, Greensboro. And let's go to maps. Do you see the FW Woolworth sign, just like I said? Can you see it there? You see the sign, the way it looks? Do you think this is the one in Greensboro? Where's that picture? Where's that picture? Oh, look at this building back here. Oh, look at those buildings and that one right there. Oh! This article, now that I look at the caption, Old Woolworth Department Store, Greensboro, North Carolina. And it gives credit to the person that took the picture. So where did they get this picture? Where did this person get this picture? They got it this, excuse me for losing track of which tab it is. It's the same picture. It's not exactly the same picture. It's taken from exactly the same spot practically. Except this is with the traffic. I'm just having fun, folks. Have I ever been in that store? Yes. What's the whole point of me playing around like this? What's the whole point of me playing around like this? I started by saying I did this video yesterday. Then I said, when I was a kid, there were 5 and dime stores. And then I asked Google, where was the FW Woolworth store in Asheboro, North Carolina? And it showed me a picture and fabricated, lied, fabricated, made up, fibbed by 30 miles. It said the FW Woolworth store in Asheboro, North Carolina was located at 134 South Elm Street. There is such an address, but the address they're speaking of is in fact what they mention in the next sentence, Greensboro. Elm Street is the main commercial street in old downtown Greensboro. That's where you'd go shopping in the 1950s. Somebody like me. Excuse me for belaboring this. This is not the first time I've caught the AI engine fabricating, lying, making it up. They like to call it hallucination. What kind of computer LSD is it on? 30 miles is close enough. It's just a matter of getting the spelling wrong or something. I'm having fun with it, folks. Oh, wait a minute. Where's that street view? Where's the street view? There it is. Okay. What did it say? Where's the sign? Elm Street is not a numbered street. It's not a numbered highway. Now, Friendly Avenue is, and I'm thinking it's in this direction. There it is. There's a sign right there. Have I got it right? No, that's a different one. So here's Elm Street at, let's find out what street this is. Okay, this is Market, that's not it. Here's Friendly. So we got to find the marker. Where's the marker? I don't see the marker. It said it's at this corner. And the reason why they're choosing Friendly Avenue is because it's a numbered route, highway. Let me do it again. Now remember, this is just like you doing it. NC markers, Guilford County, am I getting the county right this time? And we want to go to sit-ins. Now, here's the article. It says that the sign, from where the sign is, it's 2 blocks south. I went, from looking at the FW Woolworth, I went 2 blocks north. So I went to the corner where the sign, the marker should be, but I don't see it. So let's look at it this way and see if I made a mistake. Satellite view. It's slow to fill in. There's West Friendly Avenue. There's North Elm Street. And as of currently, Elm Street at Friendly Avenue in Greensboro. We'll do it again. We go to maps. You see the park there? It's slow. Do you see the park there? Do you see the park? So it's the correct corner. See, now I'm intrigued to find, why do I keep losing track of it? Okay, now, why does it do all this crap? Now this is the intersection. The date of this is 2017. And there it is. See it? Can you see it right there? It's filled up with attempts to sell commercials. What junk. They're irritating me. Can you see it right there? Now this is the Bank of America building permanently closed. Am I headed in the right direction? There's the FW Woolworth. More dates. Hang on, I'm playing. What's the earliest we can get? 2007. That's around the time I saw it. This is still 2007. And now they've switched me back to July 2012. There's the park. It seems as though the marker has had a rough time. Oh, there it is, right there. There's the marker in 2012. And this was the Bank of America building, and at that time it wasn't closed, permanently closed. What did this all start as? I have too many tabs open. Did I lose the original bullshit? Okay, let's do the search again. Let's see if it's learned its lesson. Where was the FW Woolworth store in Ramseur? Asheboro's that way, Ramseur's that way. North Carolina. I'm changing the town. Wait a minute. Where was the FW Woolworth store in Ramseur, North Carolina? It doesn't give me an AI overview. Where was the FW Woolworth store in Franklinville, North Carolina? We're exploring the behavior of the AI overview engine. The FW Woolworth store was located at 132 South Elm Street in Greensboro, North Carolina, not Franklinville. Franklinville's 2 miles that way. The store was the site of the Greensboro sit-ins in 1960, da-da-da-da-da-da. So when I said Ramseur, it doesn't trigger it to fabricate anything. When I said Franklinville, it actually is coherent and truthful and accurate factually. And if I put in Asheboro, let's look at the AI overview again. Now I'm asking it with Asheboro, North Carolina. The FW Woolworth store in Asheboro, North Carolina was located on South Elm Street in the Northeast Shopping Center. The FW Woolworth building was a significant location during the Greensboro sit-ins in 1960. The hallucinations are dynamic. Got that? Dynamic. They can literally change. It makes it up as it goes. This explains why earlier when I was doing this, just playing around, and I saw that it had hallucinated, I decided to make a video. Now making the video, I've learned another aspect, that it actually is impromptu making this stuff up for some reason. Why would it make that kind of mistake? But it didn't make that mistake with Franklinville. In fact, it was absolutely accurate that the nearest FW Woolworth store was in Greensboro. But when we talked about Rant store, it went completely blank. He couldn't say anything about it, except point to Greensboro. Why are there's different levels of association? Do our minds work the same way? Oh, that's right, it was in the next town. Have you ever said something like that, that you remembered it in this place, but it was actually about 2 miles away? Is this getting close to what we are? Now let's go further down the road just for the last ha-ha. Let's go to the old Andy Siler City. I'm assuming there was one there. What does it say? Remember, I'm playing around. Siler City is about 20 miles that way. The FW Woolworth store in Siler City, North Carolina, was located on 21st Street East. It was a two-story brick building, part of the Central Business District. Specifically, the address was 220 21st Street. The store was built in 1929. East, now the map right now is East 21st Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Winston-Salem is a city near, eastward, from Greensboro. It used to be two different cities, Winston and Salem. And it is showing us Winston-Salem, but I'm going to say, can you find this in Siler City, North Carolina? Is there such a thing? The address I'm looking for in Siler City is 21st Street. This map here with 64, this is Siler City. What's it showing me? Chatham Industrial Supply, East 3rd Street. Siler City Distribution, Acme, East 11th Street. Monterey Farms, East 3rd Street. Now what does that imply? That implies that there's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th Street in Siler City, but there is no 21st Street. And there's no 21st Street in Asheville. There's a 1st and a 2nd and 3rd Street, but there's no 21st Street And that's why it gives me these businesses that are a few blocks away, so to speak. Fayetteville Street, Worth Street. It's not even giving me First Avenue. Now, you're wondering, why am I going around like this? I'm showing you how it, in some cases, it simply makes stuff up if it's close enough. I asked it for 220 21st Street East. They gave me Winston-Salem, but that wasn't what I asked for. But there was a 21st Street somewhere within in the computer's mind, a reasonable distance. So it just says, oh, you must have meant that. But it doesn't say to me, oh, you must have meant that. It just states it as a fact. "220 East 21st Street, Northampton, Pennsylvania." There's a Zillow there. Pennsylvania is nowhere near North Carolina. It's trying to be helpful, and it will make stuff up. That's really what this is about. Fabrication. Now, why would you want to know about this? Are you really going to rely on these AI stuff? It's as crooked and as Are you going to really rely on this AI stuff? It has no hesitation whatsoever about lying or hallucinating. I'm on LSD, didn't I tell you that? I'm on something stronger than LSD, but that's a secret. I'm not going to tell you what it is. That's our cartel's business. You follow what I'm getting at? Now look, I just started out with, it made up something about where the FW Woolworth store, and I said FW Woolworth because I used to go in there in my hometown because it was on the way to grammar school. And I'd have a nickel or a dime and I'd go in there and buy something. If it had been 3 blocks away, I probably wouldn't have gone in there that often. But it literally was at the corner, where I had to cross the street to get to school. So that ancient thought from my childhood led us on a journey that exposes the major fraud of the AI engine at Google. It's so big, there's no way they can fact check it. And it's simply built in a way to make things up, to try to help the stupid human beings that are desperately looking for certain place and they can't find it and they're lost. We want them to be able to get home, or whatever it is. Do machines think like that? Is it somehow built into the way they wrote the code that even the people who wrote the code are unaware of? Does Google even bother to do this checking? Is it a secret project? They know about it, but they don't want to say anything because if they can find a way to detect this and fix it, they can just keep it quiet under wraps. In the meantime, they don't want everybody laughing at them for being assholes. Besides, if you're in Chicago and you're making the search, you don't know the difference between Asheboro and Greensboro. Is that what they're counting on? It's only somebody like me that actually is here. And who am I? I'm one voice out of 330 million people. Who cares? Do you see the attitude behind it? What's the purpose of what they're doing? To make money. every one of these searches that showed me, see, this was the one for Siler City. Excuse me. Let me go. A suburb of Greensboro, High Point. The FW Woolworth store in High Point, North Carolina was located on Wren Street. Specifically, the historical marker commemorating the sit-ins is placed where the back entrance of the Woolworth store was located, according to the City of High Point's blog. Talk about really making this bullshit up. The National Park Service notes that the FW Woolworth building is located on South Elm Street in the Northeast Shopping Center. Is there really a Wren Street in High Point? Yes. It didn't give an address. That looks like a post office. Some kind of government building. Oop! Pasha Restaurant. Somehow I hit some place. Now, this is Commerce Street, excuse me. Now, if I make the map smaller, it's pointing to Wren Street. And here's Greensboro, and the place we're interested in is approximately here. Miles away. So once again, just by choosing another nearby city municipal name, the AI engine fabricates it. Just makes it up. And this one was really gobbledygook. The back door was located on, it's making it up as it goes. I wonder if you guys are going to stick through this one the way some of you stuck through that one. I'm trying to show you what's really going on with this AI stuff. The search engine is at the forefront of it. 1 billion people use the Google search engine every day. And look what it's doing. And yes, it has limits. If it's too far out of whatever its imaginary boundaries are for making something up, it falls back into the pure factual state. So when I said Franklinville, it knows there never was a store there. But if I name something that is within 10 miles, 20 miles of where it really was, it makes it up. It's petting you on the back of your head like you're a 2-year-old. You won't know the difference. And they're making billions. Those smart assholes are making billions off of you, selling advertising. By making it up, oh, I just thought of how they might be doing the criteria. Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. These are potential advertisers. They're taking something from the Winston-Salem Journal. They're taking something from a historical thing called highpointdiscovered.org. It won't go there. It's very slow. This computer is in somebody's closet at home. There's an X there, and it finally loaded. I'm serious about what I just said. 160 years of history in 9 snapshots. High Point Center, 1859. A High Point Enterprise, 1882. The first exposition, 1905. High Point College, 1924. There's a marker for that. John Coltrane. He was a musician. I'm not sure he was born in High Point. Am I confusing him with another musician of his type where they had the chicken plant fire and the doors were locked and people burned alive inside? There he is. The Woolworth sit-in. Let's see what it says. This is the thing it hooked onto. We're exploring. When I start these things doing it myself, I don't know where it's going to end up. Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, but this is in a historical article subsection in Winston-Salem, which is a city adjacent. Hundreds of students, civil rights organizations, churches, and members of the community joined a 6-month-long protest. Their commitment ultimately led to the desegregation of the FW Woolworth lunch counter on July 25th, 1960. So Ezell Blair Jr., now Jabril Kazan, that means he became a black Muslim, and Franklin E. McCain and Joseph McNeil and David Richmond leave the Woolworth store after the first, but were they from Greensboro or were they from Winston-Salem? Years after John Coltrane graduated high school, citizens of our city decided to take a grand stand against the injustices. So what they're saying is they're nearby, and so they joined in. Now, wait a minute, Wren Street's here. Hang on. Let's see how they got the Wren Street in there. It's right here. Years after John Coltrane, I saw John Coltrane perform live. I was accompanied by somebody named Edward McCain in the Philadelphia area. Years after John Coltrane graduated high school, citizens of our city High Point, which is immediately adjacent to Greensboro, it's a little west. Citizens of our city decided to take a stand against injustices that had been happening long enough. Inspired by the famous Greensboro sit-ins, a group of 26 African American high school students from the William Penn High School. William Penn was a Quaker in Pennsylvania, right? Philadelphia, walked into Woolworth's on Wren Street in downtown High Point and calmly sat at the counter. When asked to leave, the students and their leader, Reverend Cox, politely refused. So just as there was an FW Woolworth store in my small town of 15,000 people up north, there was also not surprisingly, an FW Woolworth store in High Point, 5 miles from the one that started the whole thing, and they did a copycat on the FW Woolworth lunch counter in High Point. But the AI machine doesn't make that clear. They just make the jump without explaining the jump. When asked to leave, the students and their leader, Reverend Cox, politely refused, although harassed verbally by other patrons and staff and eventually forced to leave when the store was closed. The group marched with confidence and began to lead our city and communities toward the brighter future of equality and justice for all. So by continuing to press, I found out the degree to which something that sounds close or similar can get roped in as though it's the actual answer. That it doesn't let on the fact that there was an FW Woolworth store on Rent Street and it knew it from somewhere, even though I was asking about some other place. And that's the way it fused them together, close enough. But when I said Franklinville, in its great view of history, it knew there never was an FW Woolworth store in Franklinville. It knew there may have been and probably was one in Siler City. There wasn't one in Ramseur. I'm figuring out how it works. But it can't come out and spill all that detail to you, so it just abbreviates it, hallucinates, and gives you its quick summation because it's got to move on. Can't burn too many CPU cycles on an asshole like you or me. Now, I'm a little confused about something, so bear with me. John Coltrane, High Point. But why is it that I don't remember him from High Point and I remember him from near the chicken factory? Here we go. John Coltrane's family moved to High Point in 1926 and his dad took a job as a tailor. Coltrane would go on to be part of High Point community throughout his childhood, but that's not where he was born. Now remember, my mind is competing with the AI overview computers at Google. Coltrane. Okay, here we go. I might be confusing John Coltrane with Thelonious Monk. Let's first look at the marker for John Coltrane. John Coltrane, jazz saxophonist and composer, influential stylist, work spanned bebop to avant-garde, born 1 block southwest. The marker is K31. The marker is K31 on US 74, an actual marked highway, Hamlet Avenue at Bridges Street in Hamlet, North Carolina, in Richmond County. So I did remember correctly that although that high point is where he was actually growing up, he was born in an apartment upstairs 1 block away from where the chicken factory burned up. Here's Hamlet, North Carolina. So he may have been born in a building that was near here. Okay? Now, chicken factory fire, Hamlet, North Carolina. Remember, I'm remembering back more than 20 years. September 3rd, 1991. Hamlet, North Carolina. Industrial fire. Uncoupled hose leaking hydraulic fluid ignited by a chicken fryer. Workers were trapped by locked doors. What did I say 10 minutes ago? An industrial fire caused by a failed improvised repair to a hydraulic line destroyed the Imperial Foods Products chicken processing plant in Hamlet, North Carolina. Despite 3 previous fires in 11 years of operation, the plant never received a safety inspection. The fire killed 25 people and injured 54, many of whom were unable to escape due to locked exits. Why were the exits locked? Because people were stealing the chickens. The workers were stealing the chickens, or so the owners believed. So there was only one entrance during the work shift in the middle of the night when the door was actually open and it was a large plant. It was the second largest industrial disaster in North Carolina's history. And the fire sprinkler system didn't work, etc., etc., etc. Now, let me just chase it down. It says that the fire occurred here. We're going to go to Google Maps. It says the chicken plant was near the railroad tracks, correct. It was near Bridges Street at Spear. The last time they took a look at that corner was all the way back in 2008. There's a park there now. That's where the chicken plant was, chicken processing plant. Gin Mill Road, Buttercup Drive. And where did we say? Hamlet Avenue at Bridges Street in Hamlet was where John Coltrane was born. Here's Hamlet. There's Raleigh Street. There's High Street. There's 2nd Street. There's Bridges Street. This is Bridges Street at Hamlet Avenue, which is now where the NAACP office is. The NAACP office is in that building, at the corner where the building was standing, that John Coltrane was born in. And now I lost track again of where the, oh, okay. So Hamlet at Bridges and the chicken plant was here, just down the street. Not too bad for remembering something I visited more than 20 years ago. Okay, see how my mind wanders? And then I'm brainstorming it, and I'm reminiscing, and I'm piecing together these things that float past you in the news, things you read, whatever, and then you try to figure out why you may remember those associations. I remember that there was a chicken plant fire that was terrible. I was living in North Carolina. I had come here recently. It was terrible news because people were presumably stealing stuff out of the plant, so they locked all the doors but didn't tell anybody. And it was a shit place to work, and it burned down, and they couldn't make it to the doors, and it was a large factory. And the fire prevented a lot of the people from getting out of the building, and they couldn't break the locks. But I was able to pull these things together when they mentioned John Coltrane in High Point, and I said, High Point? That's not right. But it was right. He did grow up there, but he was born in another place, which is what I thought was an incongruence. And I was correct. He was born in Hamlet, a few blocks from the chicken fire. And the chances are somebody in his family worked in that chicken plant at one time or another. Don't you think that's why they were living there in an upstairs small apartment in a brick building? Now, I'm smiling because I'm going to say one final thing and then let it go. I can imagine that because I can remember before I was a year and a half old, I have one memory from the small second floor apartment over a commercial building, shop on Main Street in my hometown, where my mother and father first lived after they got married. During the first year after I was born, but less than a year and a half later, we were living further up Main Street on the first floor of a two-story house when I remember my father asking a friend who worked for a funeral home to give us a ride to the next city to the hospital when my brother was born. Am I making that up the way the computer at the AI at Google makes it up? Or is it real? And now I'll repeat something that I've told you in other videos. When I was in high school, we went on a band trip, exchange trip with a high school in another part of the state. And when we got there, we went in, I don't remember, it was 2 or 3 buses. So it took 2 different drivers. And I went over to one of the drivers when we got off the bus. And I think he was driving the other bus. And I went over to him. I'm in my band uniform in the room. We were going to stay overnight. I went up to him and I said to him, "Do you know who I am?" I didn't say who I was. I just went up to him and asked, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "Yes." My next question was, remember, I'm almost 19 years old. This is not a baby remembering it. My next question to him was, did you drive my father and me over to hospital in when my brother was born? And he simply said, yes. So obviously he was a childhood friend of my father. And why would he definitely know people in my family and know my family? Because my grandfather owned a business right there in Shop Row on Main Street, about 200 feet from that apartment that I remember before we moved up, way up Main Street into an actual house. So my first actual memory of life on Earth was in that small upstairs 2 or 3 room apartment over on Shop Row on Main Street, just the way Coltrane was born in a similar kind of situation. And maybe that's how, in my mind, I still remember this stuff from the time I was out finding all the 1400 North Carolina Highway historical markers. 1400 is a lot of them to remember, isn't it? I don't remember them all, but I remember that one. Steve A.B. Foriel. Once again catching the Google AI engine hallucinating and trying to analyze it a bit. When I worked for that big internationally known, internationally operating IT company, they paid me very well because of that talent. Because sometimes there are situations where everybody else has exactly the same answer to what's going on, and it's the wrong one. And the customer is in great financial danger of collapsing if we can't fix their IT system because their business, 90% of their business depends on it. And then they say, let's have Steve look at it. I'm showing you what my talent was, even though it seems like you're really crazy. But when you can get the answer when no one else can, they remember to raise your salary every year so you won't leave. Steve A.B. Foriel, just an idiot running his mouth. I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. Saying see you at 73.